Alright, this is a video about how to set the throttle position sensor on a keyed bike, and this is a KTM EXC. This is the style that does not have a brace here in the frame. If you have the style that has the brace in the frame, check out my other video where I show an SX, which is similar to the newer EXCs, which has the brace in the frame, and I'll show you how to handle that. This is actually really easy. The only tool you're going to need is a Torx. This is a T25. And that's the only thing you need. You can actually do this with the gas tank still on the bike, but this being an EXC, the gas tank's big and it would cover everything so the camera couldn't see it. But there is actually plenty of room to get in there with all the tools to do it, even with the gas tank still on. So all you're going to need is either the Pigtail that we sell in combination with your own voltmeter, or our Pro Model TPS tool. Either one will work just fine. And let's get started. So the throttle position sensor is under this boot. Oh, I'm sorry. One more thing you're going to need when it's time to put it all back together is some Windex, because that makes it really easy to get the boot back on. I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so the throttle position sensor is under this boot. So you're just going to pull this boot down. And right here, you'll see there's this is the plug. Just push this tab with your thumb, and it pops right off. And that's the plug. So this is the throttle position sensor right here. Since we are using the harness, we'll go ahead and plug that in. So you plug the female end into the sensor itself and the male end into the bike. Okay, just like that. And now we're going to attach the voltmeter. It's real easy. You've got red, black, and green. And you're just going to take the black probe from your voltmeter and plug it into the black wire. And take the red probe from your voltmeter and plug it into the red wire. Just that simple. Now I occasionally get questions about how to set the meter, so I'm going to show you here. This is a Fluke auto ranging. If you have an auto ranging meter, you're just going to look for DC voltage. It's a V with a solid straight line and a dotted line. The V with the squiggly line is AC voltage. That's not the one you want. You want to set it to DC voltage, just like that. Okay? And if you have a manual meter, like this one, you want to set something around the 2 volt range, if you can find it. Look for the DC volt section. 20 volts works sometimes, but it doesn't have as much resolution. You'll see here how many decimals you've got. You've only got 2 decimals, which is actually plenty to get the job done. If you want more resolution, if you go to a lower setting, like 2 volts, you're going to have, on this meter, 3 decimals. If you have a millivolt range, it's usually too small. If you go down to 200 millivolts, that's not enough. You're going to go past the range of the meter and it's not going to work for you. The 2 volt setting would be ideal if you have a manual meter with that. Okay, now you'll notice we've got a bunch of zeros because the bike's not powered up yet. This being a keyed bike, watch what happens when I turn the key on. See if I can reach over here and not bump the camera. Okay, and you'll notice the headlight's on now. You can't see the headlight, trust me, it's on, but there's no power yet. You also have to turn the engine switch on. There you go. So this one's been adjusted a little bit. We're at 0.631, which for this year bike is a 2014. It's pretty good. We're going to turn up a little bit because we've still got a little bit of popping. If you wanted to test the full range of the throttle, at this point you can do that to make sure your sensor's not bad. Just grab the throttle and slowly turn it up, and you'll see the voltage increase steadily all the way to full throttle. That's full throttle. Then let it down slowly as well. If the sensor's good, the numbers will change smoothly all the way in between. If there's something wrong with the sensor, it may jump, you may see a 0, it may hang, anything other than smooth. So you're just going to grab your Torx. I'm going to work around the camera here, see how this works. Take your screwdriver. We're going to chop just a little bit. I know we're pretty close, 0.628. I'm going to shoot for 0.64, which on this particular year bike is known to be a pretty good number. This particular year bike, changing the idle does not change the throttle position sensor. So on like the 2014s, I think up to 2016 and earlier, or 2015 for sure and earlier, you can go for a specific number. On the newer bikes, the 2017s, 18s, 19s, you cannot, because the idle affects the throttle position sensor as well. On this here, it does not, so I'm going to shoot for 0.64. So all I need to do is loosen this screw a little bit, loosen this Torx screw just a smidge. Now you're not going to be able to do this by eye because it's so sensitive. If you touch this thing, look how little I touch it and it's moving. I didn't get the screw very loose. Let me try again here. There we go. So we're going to go up to, whoa. Okay, and it does not go very tight, just snug. And there we go. 0.639 is about as close as you're going to get to 0.64 without pulling your hair out. So that's how you do it with the Pigtail on a keyed bike. You notice that it stays powered up the whole time. With a bike that's electric start, with a bike that does not have a key, just push button only, check out my other video where I show you how to do that on an SX, a 350 SX. But with a keyed bike that's still keyed, if you've removed the jumper so that it operates like a push button bike, then you're gonna have to do it like the push button bikes. But with a keyed bike, this is how you do it. I get questions all the time about how accurate is the 5 volts from the bike itself. Well, let's find out. To check, all we've got to do is take the red probe out of the red wire and move it over to the green wire. See if I can do this without bumping the camera. And there you go. 5.012 on this particular bike, which is really close. That's off by, what, 100th, 1,000ths, which is spot on pretty much. So the 5 volts from the bike is more than enough, and that works well. All right, let me show you how to do it with a Pro meter. Okay, now let's take a look at how to do this with a Pro meter on the keyed bikes. It's exactly the same as on the push button only bikes. One thing I would like to mention is on the top, you notice you've got ground. On the top of the meter it says G&D, that's ground, FB, which is feedback, and F5, that's 5 volts, of course. And this is the replaced battery light. The reason we've done this with individual wires and not with one plug, which would have actually been easier and cheaper to do, is because not all bikes use the same wires, in the same order. For example, the adventure bikes use the 5 volts on a different color wire. So this allows you to reorder the wires to work on all kinds of different engines, different bikes, side-by-sides, boat motors, whatever's fuel injected. For pretty much all the KTM motocross and single-cylinder off-road bikes, you're going to put the black in the ground, you're going to put the red in the feedback, and you're going to put the green in the 5 volt. Okay, now all you got to do is plug this guy in. There you go. And if we're going to make the adjustment, exactly the same as before. We're going to take off our tool. Plug back in the bike harness. Now this boot can be a booger. If it slid down the wire and you have trouble sliding it back up the wire, just give it one little spritz of Windex, and that makes it really slippery. It slides right up over the sensor. The sensor is watertight anyway, won't get in there. And the Windex is going to dry up in no time. And we'll be back in business. There we go. All ready to go.